I drew out at times how long the slowest point can last, because there's times where we get this a little bit mixed up. And one of the report cards we focus on is how much time at either coasting or neutral throttle, right? Whether you're neither decelerating or accelerating. And I can almost guarantee, and I can ask Colin this question, I've never asked him this question, but at Road America, I would say almost no matter what vehicle you're driving at Road America, my guess is the only corner that you have neutral throttle is the carousel. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've driven a bunch of different cars around here. I mean, everything from Mini Coopers to McLarens around this place. And I mean, certainly the carousel is all about just managing that pace throughout the middle, trying to keep the car as tight as you can, but also allowing some of that space to drift out in the middle. So even in an ideal world, you might be constant throttle all the way through, but now maybe, modulating a little bit here and there throughout the corner, but it's very fairly consistent across pretty much everything I've driven through here.
So to that point is the slowest point of the corner is, again, a massive report card for what we're doing in our riding or driving. And the slowest points, depending on the radius, the slowest point can be very, very short. We have here, it's 7. Is that 7? No, that's 8. Sorry. Down in 8, where because it's just a standard 90-degree corner, that the slowest point's very, very short. So done correctly, because the way that radius is laid out, the idea is by the time your foot comes off the brake, your rate of deceleration, meaning your minimum speed, should be set, but more importantly, your direction should be set. So by the time you've released the brake, all of a sudden the exit's like looking right at you. You're like, all you have to do then is worry about finding your exit reference point, adding throttle, and taking away some steering wheel angle. So at a corner like that, the slowest point is very, very short. On the flip side of that, as you look at the carousel, is because it's such a long radius corner, the slow point can last a long time, because that's what that radius dictates. If you get into this, like you get in here and if you start picking the throttle up like middle of the way through the corner, and then you start, of course, if you pick your throttle up, what happens to your radius? Opens up, right? Fairly simple. So if you start picking the throttle up and you start losing trajectory, right? You start losing direction, then your exit's going to suffer. Realize that as hard as it sounds, giving yourself permission to go slow for the correct amount of time and making sure that, you want to have a great entry and making sure that you have a good exit. But there are corners that the slow point it lasts a long time. And even though you feel like you should be doing something, you have to wait. You just have to wait. And it feels like an eternity. It feels like you suck. It feels like everybody's catching you, but it's right. Slow point can vary depending on the radius, how long the radius of the corner is. So we wanted to talk about that a little bit, because it's tough, because we meaning people that want to haul ass and improve, think we need to be going fast everywhere. But respecting where we have to be slowed and pointed so you can accelerate for a longer period of time is pretty huge. While we're talking about that, would the slow point on the carousel have a sustained throttle? Let's talk about that, right? Let's sort of linger there for a little bit. If you come into the carousel and you release the brake, you've turned in and you go to the throttle, and I'm making up the speed. I'm just going to make it up, right? So if you're holding the wheel or lean angle on a bike, same thing, and you're going 70 miles an hour, let's make it up, and you start to add some throttle, and now you're going 72, 74, you have a choice. Two things are going to happen. Either you're going to run wide at the same lean angle, or you have to increase steering wheel angle or lean angle. That's just how it works. So typically in a race or in a lap time situation, and again, I'd love to hear Colin's idea on this, because this is certainly how I approach it. I'll get in and I'm going to add throttle until the car talks to me, because that's what you do, right? You want to have as much corner speed or roll speed through a corner like that, but you still have to respect how it's pointed, and you don't want to ruin your exit. So if you go through there and now you're going 74, 76, 78, and now you're losing trajectory and the thing starts to push or the rear comes out and now you've screwed up your exit, that's too much. The flip side of that is if your car is capable or your bike is capable of going through at 70 miles an hour and you go through at 62, well, you've got some room. So I know one of the drills that we do in longer radius corners like that is we will work with students on actually adding some roll speed and corner speed through there until you start to lose one or the two of those things, whether you got to add wheel or your trajectory runs out. At a high pace, you're always flirting with that because you want to keep your overall speed up as much as you can. So you're constantly flirting with how much you can give it in the middle of the corner, but you still got to respect where it's got to be slowed and pointed.